and potentially over 700 transitional jobs across the city agencies. 7,000 private, for-profit and non-profit, private industry goal of 7,000 subsidized positions with guarantees of hiring at least 85% of the people who work there and paying a living wage. Provide a credit on civil service tests if possible, if people have experienced that work through WEP. I'm sorry, I just need to get this through quickly. It is possible, and like, for example, 73,000 people took the sanitation test. There are almost 1,000 WEP workers in sanitation at this time. So there should be a way to find a pathway, and there's also JTP there, so there should be a way to give them jobs. Increase senior employment services. There are 500 WEP workers in senior centers.
I'm really sorry to cut you off. I really am, but we have to be consistent, and there's a gentleman right after you. And we have to get out of here. I think they turned the lights off at 8.
Okay.
Okay? I think I'm joking.
Just 1 second. GED, ESL.
Got it. GED,
literacy.
ESL, literacy. Got it. Thank you. You may begin.
I'm Anthony Russos, former Director of Fiscal Affairs for the DOT's Bureau of Bridges. If I may, I would like to give the Council some insight, historical perspective, and perhaps some comment on what I have seen and experienced as fiscal positive achievements or fiscal failures and disasters, and to offer a cautionary warning on the bottomless fiscal pit of the MTA, and to remind the Council of the discovery of the MTA's habit of keeping 3 sets of books, its use of fear-mongering to make people feel that they have no choice but to cave in, and to continue to propagate the waste of billions of dollars in inflated administrative costs for a corrupt and wasteful contract process, nepotistic practices, and its ceaseless arrogance and indifference to the needs of the city's viability, and the needs of all its citizens, whose requests, needs, and pleas it continues to ignore at all public hearings, and indeed only holds such hearings to fulfill its legal obligation to do so. Please remember that in its present-day fiscal requests for money to allegedly maintain old equipment, it regularly, if not annually, receives such monies to maintain this equipment. What did they do with the money, and which set of books will they present to show where the money went? I'd like to briefly state that before the creation of DTC, who I also work for, when the city still had its large in-house engineering forces, including ironworkers, bricklayers, carpenters, electricians, highway repairers, painters, and laborers, we were consistently able to perform the same work in less time at a much lower cost and at better quality, with an average saving of 40 to 60% versus contracting the work out. Secondly, I'd like to speak for the hundreds of thousands of present-day youth and the youths of the past. Several generations of people lost because they fell between the cracks and victim to an inept social service system, a less than poor or adequate educational system, or a non-existent or adequate apprentice training program, and an overzealous, corrupt, mentally unstable, or unfit police force, and a prison system that does not understand or comprehend the meaning of rehabilitation program or have any incentive to offer one. We have millions of people on the streets and prisons that are not qualified for jobs, cannot read or write, have serious mental issues, cannot obtain or afford housing, and may naturally have some anger issues and cannot see any other way to counter this sense of drowning or a feeling of being kept down by the system other than by doing drugs to help block out their pain and their feeling of worthlessness, a drug use that they are now dependent on. In the past, I frequently walked from the George Washington Bridge in Washington Heights to the Williamsburg Bridge in Brooklyn and throughout the Bronx at all hours, mostly after dark. I have seen what's out there and what or who is not, and who is there that can provide help. It appears most of the people that are being helped are the ones that are physically able to go to these social services offices. There's a large group that cannot make these offices. They fall between the cracks. And I'd like to, at the last note, they should provide better aesthetic things for the people of the city. And it's time that we all audited the MTA with a goal towards disbanding the good old boys hierarchical network that exists and its relationship with real estate barons, bankers, and Albany politicians, and free up billions of dollars in waste, greed, and avarice that we can put to better use.
Thank you. You can officially say that you wrapped up. Yes, we should clap. That you wrapped up the FY16 budget hearings. You did that. This panel.
Thank you. Minutes, I would have given you bigger splash.
It's okay. Thank you so much. I want to personally acknowledge Council Members Chin, Johnson, King, and Arroyo. You hung in there with me. I appreciate it. The people of New York City appreciate it. This concludes the City Council's hearing on the Mayor's fiscal 2016 executive budget. We are wrapping up at 7:55 p.m.